The Catskill Mountains in New York are stunning. Through their beauty, I am here to tell you that looks can be deceiving. I always enjoyed the drive through the Catskills when I was a kid. My calling to explore the mysterious nature gave me a sense of awe. It was a place I felt true inner peace. Once I could drive myself, I would take consistent weekend camping and ski trips. My excitement for the unknown only grew. I became less fearful and more curious. This was my biggest mistake. I found myself driving into the heart of the mountains in uninhabited areas, camping all alone. This new arrangement worked for a while, and I was happy with the new experience, so I stuck with it. My weekend trips became frequent, and I was camping every week. Now, I don't want to bother you with details, but this story was when I was camping with my friend Frank. Frank and I had been friends in high school, and remained friends throughout college. During winter break, we decided we would go on a 3-day camping trip in a new area, the Big Indian Wilderness. There are many urban legends of the Catskills, all of them fake, or so I thought. The biggest urban legend of the area was the Ghoul Hound. This sounds weird. A slim figure that walks on 4 stick-like legs, drops spines on its back, and a growl that could turn even the bravest of people pale. The worst part about this creature is its face. It was made of 2 ovals that crossed together. Going horizontal were its eyes, going vertical, its mouth, of razor-sharp teeth. I had never experienced anything that really scared me in any of my camping trips, even the solo ones. The usual bears and raccoons came and went, usually scavenging for some of my leftover food. I always carried bear mace with me, and a variety of knives just in case a bear got a little too curious. But nothing could have prepared me for this trip. I had to stop for gas when we got into a little town outside of the Big Indian Wilderness area. I noticed the cashier at the store staring at me with concern in his eyes, and this set an uneasy feeling inside my whole body. Now, what happened next is, to say the least, cliché. I went to check out, and I decided to ask the cashier if everything was alright. He gave me a weak smile, and asked what I hope he wouldn't. "Are you going into the Big Indian Wilderness?" he asked. My response of a simple yes made him pale. He went on to explain in vague detail how campers kept disappearing over the last 2 years, and that we should just stay at a camping resort to protect ourselves from the Ghoul Hound. This had Frank and I questioning if we should keep going or not. After a long discussion, we decided yes, we would keep going and enjoy the great outdoors. We weren't going to let a fake urban legend and a creepy cliché gas station cashier ruin our good time. We continued the 20-minute drive to our spot. We picked an empty valley about a 15-minute drive from the Bel-Air ski resort. The views were stunning. It was the perfect balance of quiet and close to civilization. The snowy trees coated the land as if to keep it warm. The wind gently caressed our faces as we set up the tent, racing the light of day. My anxieties of the urban legend gently left my mind as we set up a fire and relaxed. The first night went extremely well. The tent was safe and warm, no animal sounds, and the sky was full of stars. What was strange was the paw prints of what seemed to be an animal with 4 thin legs. This put us on edge again, as we both knew how stealthy the Ghoul Hound was. We knew we couldn't do anything about the prints, so we brushed it aside and left for our ski day. When we came back for the night, our tent was taken apart in a manner so precise that it looked as if a human had done it. Now remember, we are off in the middle of a forest, 15 minutes away from anybody by car. We had no cell service, so this was a big deal. Not a flake of snow fell from the sky that day. The unnerving part was, there were no human footprints, only more of the thin paw prints that had appeared overnight. Unfortunately, we'd arrived with only 30 minutes of daylight left. This bad timing on our part made us make the decision on setting the tent back up and staying the night. We decided against lighting a fire, and stayed in our tent the entire night. It was around midnight when we were startled awake by the noise. A horrible, tormenting noise. We looked at each other with horror. What we were hearing was what we were warned about by the cashier, and what most likely took down our tent earlier in the day. This was no doubt its growl. I shut up, grabbing my bear mace in less than a second. Frank sat up slower. I could tell my reaction to this was fight, while his was freeze. We sat silently, not breathing for what felt like hours. I checked the time. 12:15. We waited another minute, starting to believe we were just dreaming. That wasn't until the zipper to our tent started to unzip, as the sound of breathing hovered over the tent. The zipper slowly continued down the track, as if it knew what it was doing and was trying to taunt us. I grabbed my largest knife and got ready for what could be the end. The zipper ripped off its tracks, and the rift stretched open. The only thing I could see was the darkness of the night. What was unusual was that the stars and moon were gone. I anticipated whatever it was to stick its horrifying face inside of the tent, but it didn't. This game went on for another 4 hours. We sat, frozen, wondering if we would ever see the sun rise through the horrors of the night. As the sunrise brought a red sky, we remained unable to see the creature. Finally, we heard the growl it's infamous for. The creature came from behind the tent, leaped over it, and landed facing us. Its face was warped by a sinister look in its eye. We knew when we saw it that this creature had a lust for blood. I was not trying to become a statistic, so my next decision still shocks me to this day. I am not a large guy. I've always had a skinny build. I ran cross-country throughout high school, and I always hated football. Anyways, I found myself sprinting at this long, skinny but tall creature. I attempted to tackle the creature, knowing it would be the only way I saw the light of the new day's sun, and managed to knock it down. It got up menacingly, with a wide smirk across its cross-shaped face. Frank arose from the tent with an axe, and we knew this was about to be the fight of our lives. The ghoul hound stood up on its 2 hind legs. This thing was a lot larger than I expected. It rose to about 9 feet tall. It ran towards us, and I got mace spray right into its eyes. It wiped away the thick coating of what would put a human into a state of excruciating pain and smacked me across the face. As I drifted into a state of unconsciousness, a similar fate struck Frank. I was knocked out. I woke up bound, being dragged deeper into the woods. There was a whole group of ghoul hounds assisting the one that we had just fought and carrying us back. We were going to be breakfast if we didn't think fast. I felt a stabbing pain in my leg and realized that I had my Swiss Army knife in my pocket. I managed to bend in a way that looked natural, and I was able to grab my knife. I slowly and inconspicuously whittled away at my ropes. I freed my legs and one arm, then went to assist Frank. He was dazed and half awake, but I managed to free both of us completely. I shot up ready to fight again when I noticed something sickening. At least 25 precisely disassembled bodies of victims were stitched together in a mixed and matched jigsaw-like way. The ghoul hounds froze. They stared me down, and in a terrifying set of raspy, deep voices, they said in unison, "These two have managed to wake and free themselves. They have earned their freedom." They waved their hands around, and suddenly we had both passed out again. We woke up later in the day. My phone was dead, but the sun's position showed it was around 1 in the afternoon. We were right near our car, and our camping gear was packed just as the way it was before we left for our trip. My keys were already inserted, and the car was started. Our fuel tank had been filled. I drove my crappy car out of there. It speeds faster than I thought any car could go. When we got back to civilization in the foothills, we immediately went to a police station and told them what happened. The surprised look on the officer's face as we told him what we saw proved that he had heard this story before. He went on to explain that this was a normal report, that they'd get these around once every 2 or 3 months. As we left the police station, we saw the ghoul hounds waiting. They hid their slimy bodies behind the trees, but it seemed as if they wanted us to recognize their presence. This is why you should never go camping in the Catskills unless you are at a resort. We spent the 2-hour drive home in complete silence, except for the gasps of terror when we saw them appear on the side of the road. I went straight back to my parents' house after I dropped Frank off. I was greeted warmly and questioned about the early arrival, but I knew they wouldn't believe my story. I told them that some of the food we had brought with us was spoiled. We were feeling sick, so they would stop asking. All night I heard taps on my bedroom window. I woke up in the late morning to my parents screaming at the sight of the ghoul hound. I record this, knowing that they are nearby. I've hired ghost hunters, and exorcists, but nothing seems to work. I can't tell if they're sinister or innocent, but they seem to respect me for escaping. Whatever they are, I saw what they did to the people that didn't wake up and escape. This is my warning, to trust the cliché gas station employee and your gut. Don't go camping anywhere in the Catskills, unless you stay at a resort. This has been my warning. Come prepared if you choose to disregard it.